Chapter 18. You Send Me, Sam Cooke, a flawed-souled giant with a perfect voice. I've never put a big barrier in my head between rock and roll and soul music. I see them as two sides of the same coin. When I first started hearing them, thrilling to them back in the 50s, they seemed to have so much in common, and I still feel the same. I love listening to rock and roll and soul. I love singing them both. Out on the Biggest Show of Stars for 1960 tour, I had the privilege of hearing great rock and roll and great soul music live night after night after night. Yet one of my best and my strongest memories of my first excursion to America, a fond recollection which will never fade, came on one of our rare nights off. I've no idea where we were. Those great American cities all passed by in one big, mesmerizing blur. If this is Thursday, it must be Chicago? Detroit? Hank, do you know where we are? But on a rare free night, I was flicking through a local paper in the hotel when an advert on the entertainment page leapt out at me. Tonight, for one night only, Sam Cooke. Sam Cooke? Really? Yes, please. I had been listening to Sam for 3 years or so by now on record, and I couldn't get enough. His voice mesmerized me every time I heard it. I ran to find our tour manager. He made a couple of phone calls, and a few hours later, the Shadows and I were in a packed theater and very excited. Sam Cooke had got me from the moment that he opened his mouth on his debut self-written single, You Send Me. It had been a US #1 in December 1957, which meant it was never off AFN. It had been a lesser hit in Britain as well, and I had headed down to Marsden's the very first time that I heard it. You Send Me is a song that is truly timeless, a burst of rapture with a gorgeous, languid rhythm and cooing backing vocals. Yet, ultimately, it's all about Sam's voice. His delicious, earnest, pitch-perfect croon seems to emanate right from his heart, from his, soul. How could anyone be that gifted? Sam Cooke had this remarkable vocal range, and it sounded utterly effortless. His mastery was absolute. You listen to some singers straining for a note and worry for them. Will they make it? That was never in doubt with Sam. He was so serene as he eased through his songs, rocking or not, that you just went with him. In truth, his records sounded so immaculate, so perfect, that as the Shadows and I waited for him in that theater, I wondered if he'd be able to reproduce it in front of us. Singing in a studio is one thing. Singing live, maybe through dodgy acoustics, is another. Then Sam Cooke strolled on stage and put all of my fears to rest. He was so hip, so charismatic, that he captivated the crowd from the second that he appeared. He was wearing a fabulous suit and incredibly good-looking. The girls all started screaming the second he appeared. Then he opened his mouth and sounded just as wonderful as on his records. Oh, you send me. The crowd was 80% black, and everybody was into him. Sam was an unbelievable performer. I couldn't take my eyes off him. He walked around the whole stage and played to everybody in the place. He lay on his back to sing Blue Moon, and his sleek baritone never even wavered. How does he do that? In the cab back to the hotel after the extraordinary show, I was in a daze. I just couldn't wait to tell the other guys on the tour what I'd seen, what they had missed. Even now, I still remember how great Sam Cooke was that night. And after that, every time he had a new song out, I was all ears. For all his vocal purity, Sam was also a versatile performer. He could dream up and bring to life a sweet soul nugget such as Only 16. which he wrote for the singer Lou Rawls' stepsister. Or he could write and reel off a prime piece of rock and roll like Twisting the Night Away. They both came naturally to Sam. Another self-written Sam Cooke song I loved was Chain Gang, a big 1960 hit in both America and Britain. He sang. Sam could even grunt tunefully, and that's the sound of the men working on the chain gang. He was inspired to write it by seeing an actual chain gang of prisoners working on a road while he was out on tour. It feels odd to me that Sam Cooke was never on Tamla Motown. In many ways, he seems the quintessential Motown soul man. Maybe Sam would have ended up there one day. The man who started my love of great soul music off when I heard You Sent Me back in 1957. So many great artists in this book met with tragic ends. Sadly, Sam Cooke is yet another. He turned up one night at a motel in Los Angeles with a woman called Elisa Boyer, who was not his wife. The pair booked a room and vanished into it. A short while later, Sam apparently appeared in reception, this time alone, yelling, "Where's the girl?" The motel's manageress, who was on the reception desk, was later to claim she found his behavior threatening. She had a gun and shot him in self-defense. Sam Cooke fell to the floor and died. He was just 33. The manageress was not charged with his killing. Why? Speculation was rife. Etta James, Sam's friend, saw his body and claimed that he'd been beaten. The world champion boxer Muhammad Ali implied a racist cover-up. If Cooke had been Frank Sinatra, the Beatles, or Ricky Nelson, the FBI would be investigating. We'll never know now what really happened on that tragic night in L.A. What does seem clear is that Sam Cooke was a troubled individual with a lively private life. He was reportedly a drinker, and outside of his 2 marriages was known to have fathered at least 3 children in affairs with other women. Well, you know what? That kind of behavior is obviously disappointing, but let him who is without sin cast the first stone. Let's face it, nobody is perfect in their private life, so who are we to be judgmental? We are all flawed creatures, so how can we condemn or cancel artists for their flaws? Unless they have done something so unspeakable that I can't bear to listen to them, I can always separate the art from the artist. If they've done something wrong in their personal life, they'll usually have paid the price. In Sam Cooke's case, the ultimate price. So why should we be no longer allowed to listen to them? Well, the answer is that we can. We can still listen to their great music, and if we choose, we can still sing it. I returned to Sam Cooke in 2014 when I recorded my Just Fabulous Rock and Roll album. I dearly wanted to sing his debut song, the one that had swept me away when I heard it back in '57, You Send Me. It could have been intimidating, but it wasn't. Why? Well, I always feel that I don't cover a song, I reignite it. My new version of You Send Me was a homage to Sam Cooke, sure, but I wasn't trying to impersonate him. I sang it my own way, just as Sam had sung it his. And I was so pleased with how it came out. For me, Sam Cooke will always be that suave, handsome, peerless performer who swept on stage in that packed American theater back in 1960 and held all of us in the palms of his hands. He will always be the soul singer with the flawless voice who opened his mouth and crooned those timeless words, "Oh, you send me." Sam Cooke did. He sent me then, and he always will.